to 30 requests across Toronto for heritage conservation districts, so that's a lot of money. And the city's saying, we can't afford it. If you want it, you pay for it.
So there's no will there to protect.
Not when it comes to the money. And staff time, they are very understaffed. The Heritage Preservation Services is extremely understaffed in the city of Toronto.
Can you explain why the cost is as high as it is? Like, where does the money go to when a house is designated?
Well, not an individual house. That's a different matter. That is not a costly venture, and that can be done. I shouldn't say relatively easily, but in theory, relatively easily.
Yeah, the theory is that.
There are, first of all, you have to meet the criteria for designation for an individual property, and that's criteria under the Ontario Heritage Act. It's called Regulation 906, and there are 9 points broken down into, as Madeleine mentioned, 3 areas. It can be for its physical design, its historical associative value, or its contextual value, or all, or a combination of all 3. So it has to meet at least one of those criteria to be designated. All the research has to be done on the property, you know, when it was built, who lived there, blah, 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 all of that. Then once all that's done, they do a report that goes from the preservation panel to the preservation board, then that goes on to council. So it's somewhat a lengthy process and can take anywhere from several months to several years, depending on the property. And it's nice if the owner is in favor, because then they're working with you and you're not looking at that battle. But council can designate without the owner's permission, but if the owner is still set against it, then the owner can say, no, I don't accept that, even though council is designated, and within 30 days of the designation, they can appeal it, and it goes to what's called the Conservation Review Board. And the Conservation Review Board is a tribunal set up by the Ontario government, which looks at designation, but it does not make a final decision. It only makes a recommendation back to council, and council has the final say on whether or not the designation proceeds. Is that too much information?
Can somebody other than the owner get a house listed?
Oh, certainly. It does not have to be the owner. It can be anyone in the community. It can either, for both listing and designation, can be anyone in the community put that forward. It does not have to be the owner.
Yeah, but it would seem to be advisable to make a good case for the benefits of being listed or whatever before you approach the owner.
Yeah.
Well, I with this particular owner, I had already talked with her and she was all in favor of it, and then she just...
Somebody said something.
She's still out weeding her garden, though. She's still. I've seen her quite frequently. Maybe a casual chat with her will.
I think she's feeling fragile, wants to be sure she'll have money if she needs it.
Probably, yeah.
But it wouldn't
know.
interfere with that.
No, but people don't understand it or don't accept it.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like we have a lot of interest in this topic, and I want to really thank Mark for taking the leadership here in organizing this meeting and having such a wonderful guest speaker. So if there are people who really want to pursue this a little further, I think that's something that we can do. And if a small group of people want to come together and start to do a little bit of the research or the thinking, we know there's pieces of work going on in the Junction as well, so maybe we can learn a bit from them. So if there are people who want to come forward, and we'd be really happy to work with you. So, and I want to thank Mark because he knows a tremendous amount, and I'm not a burden on him, but he would be probably a good shepherd for helping us make some good decisions here. So I want to thank you all very much for coming out this evening.
I just want to thank Madeleine McDowell.
Yeah.
Please, the City of Toronto doesn't believe it. You can do it.
Yes, you can.
Well, also our counselor is open to new things as well. I mean, I just had a meeting with her, Dennis and I, last week, and she's interested in also doing some cleanup in the area on where all the postering is. If you all have this dislike of seeing posters being plastered all over city poles and other places, she's looking at having more designated areas in the ward for where information can be posted. So she wants us to start to think a little bit about that, and the BIA probably as well, because they're doing that whole change and beautification down on Bloor Street. So it's a good time for us to do something where there's a central location for information.
Dan,
So,
I'll only take a
yeah.
second, but I just wanted to explain that, because that was a good point, Madeleine, about trees. Because when you designate, you don't designate a building or a structure, you designate the property. It's the actual real estate. So you designate the real estate and any significant features that are on that property. So it could be a tree,
Yes.
it could be a building, it could be a combination of the building and the tree, or whatever else is
And
there. It could be,
describe
it could be a fence, like that, you mentioned the house down here that has the stone fence, that could be designated so that it's always there. So it's, you can think of all of those things, not just buildings and structures. It's all things related to heritage.
Great, thanks for that. Okay, well, thank you all for coming out on such a warm evening, and thanks for general.
You can leave the bottles behind and we'll collect them to recycle them, or if you haven't finished them, then you're welcome to take them.
So have a great summer, and you'll hear from us in the fall.